man.
I did when my brothers growing up, I had 2 other brothers, and I kept them entertained. At night it was dark, and my dad would pound on it, go to bed. He'd get mad every hour.
Yeah.
He'd keep pounding on the walls, and we'd be whispering. Then we got louder and talking. And I would do impressions, and they'd guess who it was.
Yeah.
It was terrible. At first, I couldn't even do it. They didn't care.
Right.
It was a good audience, right?
Yeah, it's probably funnier if it's not good.
Yeah, I did anything. I'd do anything. And I'd do President Reagan or say, well, and they say that's kind of sounds like that, and then they'd guess the name, and then I would do more, and I'd do Michael Jackson. I wouldn't tell them who it is.
Right.
I would just go, I love you people. You people are so beautiful. And they'd go, yeah. They'd yell Michael, and pretty soon I start getting better at it, better.
Yeah.
And then I start singing some, and they go, do some song, and then we'll guess who it is, and I can't even sing. They didn't care.
Right.
So then I would do, because my voice raspy, I'd do like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, I'd go, you made me so. I'm so glad you came into my.
I like that Tom Jones you did at the show where they didn't know what to do.
Oh yeah,
Was it Tom Jones?
Yeah,
You did it too good. I seen you do James Brown and you nailed it. I remember that.
Yeah, it's funny, and then I'd end up actually singing. Nat King Cole, anybody. I would do, and they would guess my brothers.
Yeah.
Unforgettable. That's what you. And my brother would go, Nat King. And they would yell.
Oh, they're probably cracking up.
And my dad would be banging on the wall. Shut up. Then my dad would come up to beat her butt. And then my brother would talk him into, hey, Jimmy, listen, we're going to do a song. He put my dad into the act.
Wow, that's cool. Your brother's a smart guy.
And then my mother would come up and said, you're supposed to be giving him a spank. And he'd be like, yeah, but they're going to have me do an impression.
Yeah, I think people are born entertainers. I used to act like Steve Urkel. There's a video on my Instagram. I'm like 4 or 5 years old.
I've seen that.
I'm acting like Steve Urkel at a wedding. Like, I would do stand-up at parties on the bus on the ride home. Like, I'd get my jokes all ready in the 3rd and 4th grade. I'd be like, I can't wait for the bus ride home. I'm doing stand-up. Wow. And I would just I always did. Even the same thing in the learning. I mean, I was in a learning disability class, so they let you do whatever you want. But I remember the teacher, we'd go to the trailer out in front of the school. I wouldn't take no for an answer. I just acted like, he's like, you can't act like Steve Urkel. And I'm like, I'm doing it. I just did it.
A girl did. I shouldn't even say this because it's wrong, but people do things in life that are wrong, right?
Right.
This girl had a cake, and this beautiful chocolate. I love chocolate cake, and they were raffling it off. And this girl next to me, she goes, I says, you got a nickel? Because it was a nickel for, what do you call it? Tag, a ticket. And then if you have a drawing, you can get the cake.
Yeah.
So I said, can you give me a nickel so I can have a ticket? And she goes, you pay me back tomorrow? I said, yeah. She gives me the nickel.
Yeah.
I win the cake. And she goes, I think it'd be only fair if I have half that cake.
And she's right.
And I go, and she's technically right? But I was so excited because all I could see was that full cake, right? So I looking at the phone, I go, give me a second. Right? I take that cake and I run like a maniac. I ran through the woods. I ran home. And I didn't give nobody nothing.
Oh,
and the
man.
next day, I was so embarrassed to see her again. I go, here's your nickel. Where's the cake? I had the cake at home.
Oh, wow.
My mom couldn't believe I did that.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, see, that's something, I'm not proud of. But
that's funny.
Things happen, in school with the kids.
Yeah, that is funny. That is hilarious, man. Yeah, I know I've done... I've done a lot of dumb stuff in school and embarrassed myself a lot. Like I remember they wouldn't let me go to the bathroom and I peed and the teacher goes, Dominic, you peed your pants? And I was like, no, this is the style on my pants. And she's like, this is how bad the teacher is. She goes, come up here in front of the class, turn around, and the class is all laughing. Oh. She goes, what's the style of the pants? I'm like, I think they're like two-tone or something.
Right? My God.
I'm all like, I just peed my pants in front of this. I'm all up in front of the class. And then, your grandmother, my nana, had to bring me her shorts to school. Oh, they didn't let me go home.
Really?
My nana came up there. I'm wearing her shorts, and I'm all like, oh, this is designer stuff,
I was a senior, and I don't have a problem with that. I don't think what do you call it, IBS or whatever that, something where you have to go to the bathroom, and once in a while I'd have diarrhea,
Oh, yeah.
So, everybody has that once in a while, I guess. Well, my mother gave me a note, and she said, please excuse Jimmy, if he has to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So I had that note, and I didn't give it to her. I was too embarrassed. So she goes, if you got to go, just go.
Yeah.
If you got to go. And I'm a senior, right?
Yeah.
You got to go. Man, I was getting cramps. I had to go bad.
Right.
So I just took off. Nothing. I went. I came back in. She wouldn't let me in. I'm knocking on the window. Everybody's laughing. And I'm going, Mrs. Wise. And I'm out there. And she's trying to ignore me. She pulls the blind out.
Oh,
and
man.
the blind shoots up. And I go, Mrs. Wise. I says, I need to get back in now. And she goes, no. She goes, James. She called me James. She says, James, you had to go and you went and you did your business. She goes, if you did that, you probably went and smoked. I says,
Oh, wow.
no. When you could check, look at the bathroom. like it's all crap. I said I had to go, and I kept back. She goes, leave me alone. She pulled the blind down, and it rolled back up. 3 minutes, she's in there teaching her class. I was still tapping. I go, I need to get back in. Everything I did, they laughed at.
Yeah.
But I did one thing that was real smart. You'd have been proud of me. I was in front of art class, and they have all them big art pictures on the wall.
Yeah.
And she threw me out. She goes, you don't keep talking every minute. And I like to, talk. And
Right.
She goes, you're not talking. You're not entertaining here. You're not talking. Get out in the hall. So I had to go out in the hall. I'm standing out in the hall. I go, oh, man. I look, and here comes the principal. I go, oh, I'm done now. Here's the principal. What can I say?
Right.
He comes over. He goes, what are you doing here? And I said, you're not going to believe this, but they picked me out of all the kids in there to pick and evaluate these paintings. That's what I said. I swear to God.
Man,
And
that's
he looks-
genius.
He looks at me and he goes, keep up the good work. And here I'm thrown out.
That's hilarious.
That's all I could come up with, But we've been known to come up with some stuff.
Yeah.
When you have to,
Yeah.
Like you. Did you ever have to come up with something?
Yeah, well, I remember I had to go to a new school. I had to make friends. They sent me to that learning disability school. It was across town. I didn't know anybody. And, it's funny, when we got there, the principal was the guy that worked at our drive-thru. I was like, Ricky, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm the principal here, But I remember he knew me forever since growing up. He knew my mother, everybody. So I was at this school. I just really acted dumb in the school so I wouldn't get in trouble. I kept getting in trouble. I was like, I'm just going to play in the learning disability class and just act so he wouldn't tell my mom. He knew me,
Kind
my
of like
mom,
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
yeah,
like
and
a
he
big
knew my
Indian.
family, and I'm acting dumb in the school, and I never really talked to him before. I'd always be in the back seat, and I'm in this learning disability school, which, I'll be honest with you, Jimmy, I could have worked harder and probably stayed in regular classes. I just, I didn't believe in myself with that either. I had a teacher say, you can't learn, you're learning disabled, and I listened to her. And, I ended up passing all 5 parts of the proficiency. Eventually, I had a teacher reach me, but, so either way, this guy knew my mother. I'd see him every night. So now I'm in the drive-thru all the time. We used to go there, Gino's drive-thru right up the street from our house. I'm in the learning disability school. I'm kind of trying to act a little more learning disabled so I don't got to do homework. So in the drive-thru, I used to have to act a little messed up because we'd see him. And my mother would be like, what are you doing? Answer his question. We'd be at the drive-thru. He'd be like, hey, Dom, how are you today? And I can't all of a sudden be smart, normal. In school, I talk to him like, oh, I'm doing good. I'd act off, or I'd look in space. And I remember my mother was like, what are you doing?
How'd you answer him?
I would just sit in the back when he'd look at me. I'd be like, oh. And my mother's right in front of me. So she'd be like, what the hell are you doing? I'd be like, I kind of look at him a little weird. She'd be like, answer him. I'd be like, good, I'm good. My mother'd be like, what are you doing?
Why are you doing
Yeah, I'd be like, my stomach hurts. Even when they go to the drive-thru, I used to just act like I was asleep so I wouldn't have to talk to him.
That's funny, man. It's funny how you notice things when you're younger, even way younger. Even when I was like 7 years old, my mother would take me in a bus downtown to get a shot at the doctors.
Yeah.
Because my dad had the car, so we took the bus. And I'm driving with her, and it's quiet in the bus, but people can hear you. And we're riding there, and I had an idea we're going to get a shot.
Right.
So
they didn't even
the only
tell
time
you.
we go down there is to see the doctor, and I get flu shot or something. And I kept saying, Mom, we getting a shot? And she'd say, look outside. It's some beautiful trees out there. And people laugh because they knew what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'd look and I go, yeah, the trees are nice, but about that shot, am I going to get that shot? I would keep going on that shot. And then she would look at me, and it's funny, and the people go, and they try to help her change the subject. And I just say, I didn't want the shot, and it only took 1 second.
Right.
I worried about that for 2 days.
I remember the shot.
You remember
the
the shot?
Junior high. And when we did, it was in Youngstown.
Over in 1 second.
It's funny, my dad took me to get mine, and when we did it was downtown Youngstown, right next to the jail. And when I'm going, you're looking at that jail. You're like, you know what? I'll take that shot. That's all I'm going to end up with. I got it over with. I was thinking in my head, I'm like, do they know something? Why are we going down there?
Did you try? I always wanted to ask you this. I never asked you this, but did you ever try anything on stage? A hat, a comedy thing, a stick, a kind of a prop or anything, to try anything?
I used to wear that vest you gave me, which I'm bringing the vest back, man. I can't wait to bring that. I still got that vest that you gave me.
Yeah, I wore that in the 80s.
Wow,
that was a big thing, man, like a leather vest.
Yeah.
I told you it would give you some magic if you wore it.
I love that vest, man. So, yeah, I had a fedora in the vest. I always wore a fedora on stage doing Pete's. All my jokes were about the fedora. And I just did fedora stuff. I was the fedora guy. And on the way there, I'm driving up there with my brother on the freeway, and my fedora blew out the window on the freeway. And we're running there. I'm running late. I couldn't do it. That's my whole act. It's like the semifinals of the contest.
Oh, man.
And I go up there, and you know how you always want to kill, like, the headliners, but you can't. You watch the headliners, and you're like, man, they got the whole place is really ripping. You hear the decibels, you know. It's a different level kill than the amateurs.
Yeah. It's a lot of it's because they segment it in so many sequences in a row that it builds to that, and it keeps them going.
Yeah.
And then we have when I first started, you had a couple jokes, and then you stopped. And then you had to go to another subject, and then people change their mind because people have to adapt to that. But they would just keep going in segments. So then I learned that keep putting it together in the same thing. You don't need that many subject. Then they get it going.
And I think some of it is when you first start, too, you're a little bit like you don't want to go off the topic. You study your jokes. No matter what happens, you're saying those words, you know?
Yeah.
Like it could be, even if it's not working, if a table drops, you ever like not afraid to go away from your set?
Yeah.
Yeah, people be fist fighting and you're like, so my mother used to, you don't even talk about it.
Yeah, you
So
do.
the fedora blew out the window. I had no act. I had to go up there. And Jimmy, the lights go off as soon as I go on stage. They flicker. It's Pete. You know how Pete is. He flickers the lights because whatever, I don't know, like something I said, he just flickered the lights on me. And I go, do I still got my wallet? I'm just joking. And the place erupted. It was just improv. And then I start doing improv. And I'm like, I don't know, because, you know, there's a Spanish guy or this guy, because they were saying their names, the other comics before. I'm like, it's the start to a joke or, you know, a felony or whatever. I'm saying all these things I never thought of. And Jimmy, next thing I know, I'm starting to get that momentum. I'm talking about these people, and it's killing. I had these people from a callback, and I'm not even knowing what I'm going to say next. And I look around the room, and I was killing like one of those headliners when I got rid of that damn fedora. And I realized, I said, man, I don't need those fedora jokes.
You don't really need a proper cigar.
Right.
It's kind of you. It's the way you look.